Hey guys, I'm Matt. Welcome back to RR Aquariums. Today I am going to be kind of aquascaping the 6-gallon Fluval Edge tank that I just got for a reef. So in this video, I'm going to be putting in the sand, a little piece of live rock here that will be the foundation for corals and whatnot later on. I don't know how long the video is going to be. My camera doesn't have like fast forward capability or anything like that, so if you want to see the end result, just skip to the end of this video. Otherwise, I'm going to get started here and just kind of get to it. So, I've washed my sand already. A lot of people have trouble with washing sand. What I do, put it in a bucket like this, or a 5-gallon bucket or whatever, let the water run into it slowly and just let it overflow on its own. Don't stir up the sand, don't do anything. Just let it overflow kind of until the water turns clear, or as clear as possible. The other thing that's going to help with this, when I first start this aquarium up, in the filter, all I'm going to have is a couple of sponges. And those, after about running overnight or whatever, those sponges will be full of sand or particles or whatever that's floating around, making the water cloudy. And I just turn the filter off, take the sponges out, wash them out really good, and then put them back in there again, and with the filter media and whatnot. So that kind of helps clear up the cloudiness right away, or at least overnight. Anyways, so start with the sand here. Handy tool for getting sand out is just a measuring cup. Works pretty good. Obviously this tank's a little bit more difficult to aquascape here because the type it is. Got some water everywhere. Gotta be careful. But the sand I'm using, I have to look at the bag again, but it's coral sand. And really there's no good way not to make a mess with sand. It just gets everywhere. So you might as well be prepared for that to happen. It's going to happen. But definitely, there's I've seen people use a lot of different sand for a lot of different things. One of the popular ones that I've actually used in freshwater aquariums is just plain old play sand or pool filter sand. And while yes, you can use, I've never heard of any problems with using like pool filter sand for reef tanks or saltwater tanks, it is better to use coral sand or coral-based sand. It's like crushed coral, not crushed coral as in gravel. Gravel is a no-no, but crushed coral sand is good because it does buffer pH, tends to just seem to do a lot better in the aquarium. Looks really nice too. It's really fine stuff, so it looks really natural for a reef. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking here and focus on getting this sand in here. The other thing to keep in mind when doing a reef tank is, what do you want as a sand bed? Do you want a shallow sand bed or do you want a deep sand bed? And I've heard pros and cons of each type of sand bed. I've heard, the pros of a deep sand bed is you get a very live sand bed, and it does help a lot of the filtering and stuff, is what I've heard. But the downside to that, I've heard people say, that don't know if this is true or not since I really haven't had a tank up long enough to find out, but they say over time it could crash your tank due to it trapping enough waste and building up nitrates and whatnot, I think. But so far I haven't really done a deep sand bed just because on this other tank over here I got the 25-gallon. I just didn't really want to try and deal with, since it's a temporary tank, I didn't really want to try and deal with setting up a deep sand bed that I was just going to have to pull out later. And this little tank, I'm definitely not going to try a deep sand bed because, one, I'm going to have plenty of filtration on it with just a little bit of live rock and plenty of filter media and a good filter, but also, obviously it's a small tank. The more sand you put in it, the less water you're going to have. Everything displaces water. So while this is a, you know, a six-gallon tank, once I'm all said and done, there's a good chance it's probably not going to be, you know, more than 4.5 to 5 gallons actually, with filters and a chunk of live rock and sand in there. So you got to keep that in mind, especially when you're doing little tanks. You know, just what exactly your actual water level is going to be with displacement of rocks. And there's all kinds of calculators online, everything you can get that can help you kind of get an idea of how much water you're going to have at the end and how much, you know, how much sand you're going to need for a certain depth of sand bed. But so far I've only done, you know, the shallow sand beds that don't require a whole lot of sand, or, you know, since just haven't done it. So on a later tank I might experiment with a deep sand bed, but we will see. Then I could maybe make a video on that, on my findings. Alright, well, I can always add more later, but that's kind of looking about like what I want it to for the sand. You are going to get dirty doing this. There's no way around it. Alright, anyways, so now I've got my piece of live rock. Big thing on this tank is it's got a small opening at the top here where you can, you know, get your live rock in. So you got to choose a piece that's going to fit, which I did. This one just barely makes it through if I twist it right. Anyways, there's that. Other thing you're going to want to do is kind of make sure it's seated there, you know, definitely in the sand bed good. Make sure it's not going to move around a bunch or fall down. So that's good. The other thing I'm kind of doing on this, since the way the filter comes out right here in the center, is I'm trying to keep my rock right there in the center where it's going to catch most of the flow, so not only does it not blow my sand all over the place, but also if I have a coral that likes a little bit higher flow later on, I can put it right there on the top where it's getting right in underneath the flow. The other thing is you want to keep your areas between the glass and the rock plenty of space. You can get your hand, you can scrub it with algae, or scrub algae off it. You can get a heater in there. Definitely take into account your heater. Let's see what else. It's just easiest if you keep it away from the glass as much as you can. I don't know how much you can see here, but it's about 2 to 3 inches away from the glass on each side. So, other thing I was going for is I don't really want a tall rock because that makes the aquarium seem small. I want a nice centerpiece rock that's going to draw all the attention to it, but also have plenty of room around with sand that it kind of looks like a natural reef. And there's all kinds of articles online for aquascaping and how to make your tank look the most like the ocean. Now, I know in my other tank here off to the side, it has, I guess what is called the wall kind of aquascaping, where I just built a wall of live rock along the back, kind of sloping upward. And while that's very common, it is something that I distinctly have decided that I probably won't be doing in any more of my tanks, because one, you can't get to any of the rock or any of the glass behind the rocks. That's kind of a pain. Stuff tends to blow behind there, and you can't get it back out without moving a bunch of stuff. And once you got corals on your rock, it's a pain in the butt to try and move rock. So don't like that. Also, I've never personally been diving on a reef or whatever, but I have talked to people that are, and again, there's all kinds of articles online, and very rarely will you find that kind of formation in the wild where there is just a wall like that with tons of coral on it. I mean, there is walls, but it just doesn't quite look natural. And to me, less is definitely more in the reef tank. Something really pops about a tank that has one centerpiece or is very, not very, lots of stuff to look at. In my other tank here, I like it, but at the same time, when I move it over, I won't be doing that with the new one, just because there's a lot to look at, and it really draws the eyes in all directions, and I would rather have, everyone focusing on the focal point of the corals or one particular thing. And again, there's all kinds of articles online. I've read a bunch of them. There's really good ones on how to set it up exactly to get the most out of your corals, to get the most out of your space and everything. So anyways, that's kind of why I'm only doing this one little rock here. I just kind of wanted to try one that's a little bit less. So anyways, that's why I'm doing just one rock instead of a whole wall or whatever. And anyway, so I got it seated down here. I'll try to clean my hands off a bit here. Sand is the worst. It gets everywhere and everything. And if you've ever been to the ocean or you live near an ocean, you know that firsthand. It's just a pain in the butt. Anyways, so that's that. So this will be I think the first video of my 6-gallon build. I'll have another video when it's filled up with water. I've got my heater in, I'll have my filter on, and everything will be clear and clean. And I'll talk a little bit about cycling, how I do it, how other people do it. But anyways, so thanks for watching, guys, and definitely come back and check out my next video and see how it turns out.